Hey everybody, this is Billy Brown. I'm a nature writer with Grid Magazine and with phillynature.org, and we are standing on my very own house's roof in West Philadelphia to talk about chimney swifts. When you think about going bird watching, you might go to places like the John Hines National Wildlife Refuge, you might go to the Wissahickon Valley, you might go to Carpenter's Woods, some of the big marquee birding locations for Philadelphia where you get lots of different species. But there are some really fun birds that you can see from your very own roof or really anywhere you are in the city. One of my favorite birds is something called a chimney swift. Chimney swifts are smallish birds that have pointy wings and round bodies, so I think of them as like a cigar attached to a boomerang. And they fly with a distinctively stiff-winged flutter. I'll kind of do it sort of like that. And so they alternate like a flutter and then a glide. And so it can look really graceful up in the sky when they're flying. They look a little bit like swallows, which they're not actually that related to, but swallows fly with much deeper fluid wing beats than swifts do. Swifts have a stiff look to them. So swifts fly around all over our city, above our city, catching bugs out of the air. So they eat things like flies and moths and beetles, and they're just sort of like all the time flying around catching them. They make a really, what I find to be a delightful twittering noise when they're out there catching bugs. And so one of the ways you'll know they're there when you're walking around, sitting in a park, or heck, just hanging out on your roof, is that you'll hear that twittering sound. Then you know to look up and start looking for them. They are called chimney swifts because they hang out, guess where? Chimneys. And so you might say, how did a bird in North America evolve with chimneys? And the answer is that originally they nested and they roosted, and roosted is a little bit different than nesting. Birds nest to raise their young, but otherwise, when they're hanging out somewhere at night, that's roosting. So chimney swifts nest by building nests out of sticks and gluing them with their saliva to the inside vertical surface in a protected place. And then at night, when they're not nesting, they'll hang out by clinging to a similar kind of interior vertical surface. Now, before European colonization of North America, they would have used big old hollow trees for that. But with colonization came widespread deforestation, and with all those big trees chopped down, the chimney swifts adopted nesting and roosting in what are sort of like artificial hollow trees, chimneys. In the countryside, they'll use old silos and farms. They'll use abandoned buildings that are sort of open a little bit to the sky. And one of the neat things about chimney swifts is they are so adapted to flight that their legs are reduced to the point that they can't stand or walk on a flat surface. They can only cling to a vertical surface. So they're really stuck with these kinds of protected vertical surfaces for nesting and roosting. Now, we're filming this in early September. Chimney swifts fly above our city, catching bugs and nest and roost in our chimneys and such from spring until, let's say, middle of October. So pretty soon, they're gonna get ready to fly south to South America. One of the really cool things about them is they go all the way to northern South America to spend the winter. And so when they're doing that, when they're getting ready to make that big trip, they form up into bigger and bigger flocks. Those flocks then fly around during the daytime, and you can see like almost a big swirling cloud of chimney swifts when you're walking around sometimes if you get lucky. And then at night, they find particularly large chimneys to roost in. And so in Philadelphia, one of the spots where they're known to do this is the Henry H. Houston School in Mount Airy. And so sometimes it's just for like a week. You can go there and see literally thousands of chimney swifts at dusk sort of fly down, almost like water going down a drain or like a reverse tornado or something. At the end of the day, beginning of the night, just all sort of like fly down into the chimneys. A wonderful thing to watch. But you can also see it at other places in the city. If, beginning of October, you see a big cloud of swifts swirling around right before sunset, keep an eye on them and you might see one of what is really one of the most amazing natural phenomena in urban nature. If you're hanging out on your roof, you might see other birds fly by. You see things like starlings and pigeons and mourning doves. While we were out here, we saw a nighthawk, which is another great bird that you can see above urban Philadelphia. Nighthawks, like the name implies, they like to fly when it's getting dark or really early in the morning before the sun's shining very brightly, they catch bugs out of the air also. They evolved nesting on gravel surfaces, and so in cities they often nest on gravel roofs. And so you can see them flying around sometimes at dusk and dawn. They have distinctive kind of white elbow patches, and they're also really far migrators. They're going to start heading south also pretty soon, and they go all the way to the plains of Argentina, the Pampas. So they're flying, almost half a world away pretty soon. If you'd like to learn more about swifts and nighthawks and other birds, there's a lot of great groups in Philadelphia right now. We've got the Delaware Valley Ornithological Club. We've got Audubon chapters that cover Philadelphia. Bird Philly is a great website to find information about bird walks happening this time of year. Fall is a really great time for bird walks. We've got a lot of interesting birds passing through, so check that out to find a bird walk near you. You can learn more about bird watching in general and learn some skills that you can apply on your roof. I want to mention a few other groups that have popped up this year. We've got Philly Queer Birders, we've got the In Color Bird Club, and the Feminist Bird Club. All three have started doing walks and meetups around Philadelphia, so we got a wonderful array of groups and opportunities to go learn more about birds and fall migration this time of year. If you're thinking of ways to help birds like this, I like to point out that a lot of our birds that mainly eat insects have been declining in recent decades in North America. There's a lot of questions about exactly why that's happening, but we also notice around the same time that there's been a decline in just the amount of bugs we have around. Now, you might not like bugs, but remember, bugs are food for a lot of birds. And so anything you can do, whether that's cutting back on the pesticides you use in the garden, getting rid of the bug zapper, because really they hardly kill any mosquitoes, it's mostly moths and other things that are chimney swift food. Things like that that help bugs also help these birds. This video has been a production of Grid Magazine and phillynature.org. To learn more about nature in Philadelphia, including these birds, check out phillynature.org. And of course, subscribe to Grid and support environmental journalism right here in Philadelphia. And if you like these videos, please like the video and subscribe to our feed. Thank you very much.